I'm ready. Cue.
Hello and welcome to the Comedy Slab podcast. I'm Shane O'Connor, he's Adrian Lacey, and I have to tell you, as is always the case, you join us just after the best bit. Adrian did the most humongous sneeze that you've ever heard in your life. And fortunately, I was recording it at the time, although I've just recorded over it now, but I managed to play it back 84 times, and I've never seen anybody being so pleased with their own sneeze. He said,
"Pleased with a sneeze." That's good, isn't it?
In a poetic kind of way.
I think we've invented a new item for the slab.
Whose sneeze is this?
Who's pleased to sneeze this week? This week, I am mostly pleased to sneeze like this.
Anyway, let's get on.
Moving swiftly on.
It is the Comedy Slab podcast. Thanks for being with us. We talk about comedy every week. Adrian and I will pick one alternate weeks. I pick one week, he picks one the following week.
Sorry.
Carry
on.
Sorry.
That's only water, brother.
Sorry, was that repetition or hesitation?
Time out. Move on.
Although you probably know what alternate means, but I thought I'd explain it to you anyway. So we'd have a listen to or a watch of a comedy programme, and we'll play you a couple of clips between now and the end of this podcast to give you a flavour of what we've been listening to or watching. I can confirm though, it was a programme that we watched this week to put myself out of the misery of having to say both. And we'll also give it a mark out of 5 each, giving it a grand total out of 10. It's really just us giving people the idea of what we think about comedies. I know people take it very seriously. Oh, hang on. There's another sneeze coming, I think.
No. It's just after clearing. Carry on.
Apologies if you're eating. If you're having oysters at the moment, I do apologise.
Here is the mucus. Moving on.
Oh dear. I forgot where I was now. So some people take it very seriously and think that we're offering a definitive answer to what's funny and what isn't. But
we are experts in quotes.
And we do. We'll do that at the end for all those who like to get angry. Anyway, let me give you a brief idea of what we're going to be talking about in a second. I chose last week, and I chose a new thing from the mind of Harry Hill, Harry Hill's World of TV. We'll talk about it in a bit more depth in a second. But first, comedy news this week. And we've got a couple of things actually to talk about. One thing I wanted to mention to you, because I know we were both fans of it, The Mind of Herbert Clunkerdunk, Series 2 is now filming. That's coming back. That's good news, isn't it?
Well, I'm delighted. When you first mentioned it to me earlier, just before we started recording, and I started sneezing, you looked down your nose a bit.
Well, I didn't look down my nose. I looked up your nose.
Yeah, well, I said it's not to be sneezed at, but, what did I know?
It's a very nasally kind of show this week, isn't it? No, I didn't look. No. I didn't explain myself or express myself very well. What I was trying to say was, it was very. I can't make up my mind whether it's gimmicky, or whether it's just a brand new concept that will run and run, and I just wondered whether a second series, whether the novelty had worn off.
Well, in his defence, I'm going to quote the great man Spencer Jones, who is Herbert Clunkerdunk, and the powerhouse behind it, and a very talented actor. We've mentioned that he's been on Upstart Crow. What did we see him in with in the Office block? Mr. Winner.
Yeah.
Also, that was on iPlayer. I think it might still be. He's saying there's a host of new characters, including ex-boxer Rusty, played by Shiloh Coke, Bobby's old uni friend, Denim Jean, played by Felicity Ward, and when Herbert is at his lowest point, a moment of pure clarity. And that's Clarity, played by Vic Reeves.
Oh, he's Vic Reeves.
Pure-ish Clarity.
See, we were just talking about Vic Reeves as well before we started recording, and I was saying about how he's doing these adverts for B&Q, and I said I think he must have fallen out with his agent because his agent's giving him all this weird and wacky work to go and do now. But I said to you that Vic Reeves, if you follow him on Twitter, does like really weird things, like he'll make himself a suit out of cardboard, or go and try on ladies' hats for the afternoon or something. And so I could really see that Vic Reeves would, or the Clunkerdunk thing would appeal to Vic Reeves. It's his kind of humour, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, they're both out there, I believe is the expression.
Yeah. Do you think it's got the legs to do? I mean, what's your personal thought? Do you think it's any reservations at all, or do you think no? Actually, it'll be. I mean, they're only 15 minutes, aren't they? So
Yeah,
it's
I've got no reservations. As soon as I see the character named Johnny Wallop, exactly, you're laughing, and that's played by Dominic Coleman, with those false eyes for anyone who saw it the first time around.
Yeah,
and making a rap song out of how to remove doggy do from the soles of your shoes.
That was just awesome, wasn't it?
I can't think of a single other artist who could do that and make it so funky.
No. I must admit, when I saw Dominic Coleman was in it, he's a fellow Midlander. I think he's from Solihull, I think, actually. But when I saw he was in it, I'd watch anything he was in. Right back to Sex Lives of the Potato Men when he was in that film with Johnny Vegas. Funny guy, really funny guy, really talented. So you've got talented people around him. Hush my mouth, shut up, don't listen to me. I'm just...
Sorry, who said that?
Exactly.
Well, in which case we can move swiftly on to our second topic. Yes, not one piece of comedy news, but another, which is about Michael McIntyre and his autobiography, Volume 2.
Oh, that's interesting. I've read Volume 1.
Now, remind us what you made of Volume 1.
Well, here's the thing. It was one of those weird things. I'm a big fan of biographies and autobiographies, and I tend to... I don't have to like the person in order to read their autobiography. In fact, it almost helps if I come from a position where I think, actually, I'm not that, fussed about them. And you tend to... I don't know, it's like a look inside their mind and their house and their world and the world that they inhabit. I think it's quite fascinating. I started off not being a Michael McIntyre fan. I've never really I'm not one of his haters, but I've never really bothered with him.
Yeah.
But I came away really liking the guy. Now, I've not since gone to his comedy, so I don't know whether it's not done the trick. But once I got over his style, I really enjoyed I couldn't get on with his style at first, but then I enjoyed the book once I kind of settled into his style of writing sort of thing. Fascinating guy, interesting guy.
But the point you were raising, again, before we started recording, which is a very interesting question, is, some really great people in the past have only written one autobiography. And yet, I don't know, someone who's been on, did you mention Love Island off the top of your head?
Yeah.
Towie or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Might produce 2 or more autobiographies. It's obviously no measure of greatness, but what do we expect? I mean, I see Mr. McIntyre's picking up where he left off, so that sounds legit to me.
Right.
It's a conventional way of telling a story, moving chronologically, but you have your reservations.
Well, no, not with him per se. I mean, like I say, I enjoyed the first one. There's no reason why I wouldn't enjoy the second one, and because he as his family. I mean, he has a comedy heritage, doesn't he? I mean, his dad was a comedian and comedic writer, and worked with some of the greats, and they used to have the great and the good round his flat in London when he was growing up, kind of thing. So he's got the comedy chops in that sense, and he's certainly mixed in a world that we know very little about. If you're not famous, I don't know. But then again, I've read the third of Michael Caine's biographies. He churns them out. He does one every 6 months, whether he needs to or not. But then the guy's had an incredible life, hasn't he?
And ditto David Jason, staying in the acting profession.
Just finished the second one of his recently.
Right. I think he's on to his third, isn't he, Mr. Jason?
Could well be. I've just finished the one where he talks more or less exclusively about fools and horses.
Right.
Which you kind of look at it and think, was that going to have enough to stand up? But yeah, it was thoroughly enjoyable because he's an entertaining and enjoyable guy, and it was an entertaining and enjoyable insight. So yeah, again, maybe I'm just talking out my hat. Or maybe I should get a new hat.
Anyway, millinery aside, we've got a show to review.
Yeah.
What's the story here, champ?
Well, here's the thing. It is very does what it says on the tin. I think I've just used it in the description of it because that's all I can kind of find. Harry Hill's World of TV, and somebody I think it was on the iPlayer, 'cause it's a BBC programme, hilariously wrote, Harry Hill takes the lid off a different genre of TV each week. And I thought, well, I could kind of figure that out from the title. Can you tell me any more?
Well, the world doesn't necessarily mean, to me, that would make me think of a Clive James thing. I touched on Clive James last week because I worked with some of the Clive James shows.
What were they called? What was his show called?
I think it was the one, it was the BBC one. So Clive James on TV or Clive James on television. There were two variants. Maybe one was the ITV one, and then he came over to the BBC.
Was the ITV one was the one where he uncovered Margarita Prakatan, wasn't he?
Well, I have met, and sadly we now have to say the late Margarita Prakatan. Yeah. I just love the one, the late Clive James, of course. But I just love the way he used to say Margarita Prakatan.
Yeah.
And gave her the big build up.
The only time he would get animated and excited, really, wouldn't he? Because his delivery was quite sort of low key, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always remember her doing Lionel Richie's "Hello," and halfway through,
I've only got to think of the idea of it, thinking of her voice.
I mean, typing into YouTube, I'm sure there's YouTube videos out there, but Margarita Prakatan is what you're looking for if you've never seen it. But she was there. She just sat there at a keyboard, rather like she was doing the ironing, didn't she? In that sort of sense. And she was doing a cover of Lionel Richie's "Hello," and it was only when she got halfway through that I actually realised what it was she was covering.
Oh dear!
She made Les Dawson look like a musical
concert pianist,
musical genius.
Yeah. Well, I did wonder. I mean, and this comes up. Well, it might come up this very evening or morning or whichever time of day you're listening to us. But in regard to the show we're about to put on, the Slab, I did wonder whether Clive James was being deeply sarcastic about Margarita Prakatan, or he delivered it straight as if he genuinely enjoyed her and genuinely enjoyed having her on the show.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm not sure I saw them in the same room together other than when they were in front of cameras.
Right. So, do you know what I was going to say? This is a sort of a unique sort of genre, but of course, as you mentioned, Clive James, I realise it isn't. It's probably unique at the moment because, in the sense that nobody else is doing it, which perhaps it isn't. It isn't so much unique as just he's the only one doing it at the moment. But this is. I mean, one of the reasons I chose this is because of the genre, because it's what is it? Clip comedy? Would you call it? What should we?
Well, Radio 2 used to have a genre called broken comedy, which you may say, well, I've heard some of the Radio 2 shows. I'm going back some years when they were doing things like the headlines, and so broken comedy, I think, meant clip comedy.
Oh, okay.
Someone commenting on archived material.
Oh, okay. Well, broken comedy, clip comedy, whatever you want to call it. But and it is essentially. You see Harry Hill at the start in Vision and at the end in Vision, and the rest of the time he's voiceover, isn't he? So it is all clips, and that's what you're watching. I chose the episode. There's only one series currently, but I chose the episode 4, where he looks at police dramas. And before we go any deeper into it, should we whack a clip in and get your headline, and then we know where we are with what as it were. Is that Goodbye You or?
I'm struggling to keep up with the lingua franca. Whack it in. Goodbye You.
All right then. First clip. I won't muck about. Harry sets the scene by giving us a kind of a loose history of the genre that is the crime drama.
We all love the TV crime dramas, don't we?
You fat tart, get your bra!
The filth. Pigs. Fascist swine.
In fact, even Her Majesty the Queen is a fan and visited the set of The Bill back in the 90s.
Where's Helen Mirren? That's prime suspect, ma'am.
She even had her fingerprints taken, which sadly led to her arrest for a number of unsolved crimes.
Did I tell you, it's a fit-up, fascist pigs.
She got all her stuff.
I think so, yeah. Make sure you get your feet in.
And to finish off an already bad day, she was mugged on her way home to Buckingham Palace in a completely unrelated incident.
Get off!
What are you doing? That's a queen. Leave her alone. What the hell do you think you're doing?
So, what do you need to make your own crime drama? Well, let's first go back and take a look at how they came about. The first TV crime dramas were just reenactments of actual crimes gleaned from the newspapers of the day. Stories like Masked Men, Cosh Guards in £10,000 Pay Snatch, Bandit fires warning shot in £1,200 raid. Masked gang ram car, grab wages. Owl attacks bus driver. Seagull wants to kill my dog. And postman beaten by lavender bush.
Anyway, well, you seem to be enjoying it. Our friends listening won't be able to hear your laughter through that, but that sounded like you were pretty satisfied. I have to say, thank goodness for the fact that we give a second outing when we're reviewing shows. So first viewing, I got myself in a bit of a groove of not being at all happy with it. And I have to say, all three headlines were written after the first viewing, which is a bit cheeky. But
The first headline isn't Seagull ate my dog, is it?
that would be quite good, wouldn't it? I could have had any of those, but that would be to be myself guilty of the very thing I'm slightly accusing the show of, which is being, well, it's derivative of itself, really. So I raised the question in my first headline, is Harry over the hill? Or this is Harry's small world of the small screen, or I'm not mad about Harry. Ooh. And I speak as someone who saw him in the age of the white heat of alternative comedy. Have you ever seen him as a stand-up actor, either in person or on the box?
I've interviewed him.
Yeah. Sorry, I think you probably said last week.
Phone interview though. I've not heard it for a long time. It was a few years ago. I don't remember it being memorable, if you know what I mean.
Right. I'm guessing he was in character as the Harry Hill we know.
No, he was very. I remember, he was very subdued and downbeat. He was very, and I was kind of half expecting. I think the what are the chances of that happening? Kind of, and I think it was when Burp was just had been on and was just doing very well. And yeah, I remember him being quite. And I think, oh, this is a bit tough, kind of thing.
So I come from a position of really enjoying Harry Hill in those days as a stand-up, and it was a fresh act. I can still remember the gags. This is from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
When I say gags, it was just the a bit Vic Reeves like. It was just the juxtaposition of 1 minute he would just throw in, if there was a good laugh, just over the tail end of the laugh, he'd go, Scaramouche, can you do the fandango? And then he'd say, there are no services on the M40.
Yeah.
So great. I mean, I can't do it, but he can do it and get massive laugh out of it.
You see, I don't find any of that funny. I remember.
Well, that's because I'm doing it.
I remember. No, it's not. I remember watching Who's a Fire, that his tour that he did, which when it was on DVD. And I remember watching, and I just thought, it's almost like, it felt like watching catchphrase comedy when it's your first time and you don't know what the catchphrases are. Right. And that's how I felt. I thought, I don't get any, like when you just said, there's no, and he used to do those kind of random things, but that to me isn't comedy. I became a big fan of his when he started TV Burp, and David Quantick was the writer. Now, it's interesting because David Quantick, who we reviewed the Blaggers Guide, didn't we, I think, some time ago. And I don't think you were a fan of that, were you? I don't think you enjoyed that.
Remind me, Blaggers Guide.
It was a radio series. And he did different musical genres.
Oh, with Quantick in, yes.
Yeah. He hosted it.
But I'm not a great fan of Quantick. Nothing personal. I've never met the guy.
Right.
He just doesn't tickle my funny bones quite the way he does you.
Oh, I just love him. I think he's amazing.
But here's an interesting thing. Does Quantick get credited on TV Burp as the writer? And there is a reason for me asking what sounds like a very obvious question.
He on TV Burp, or because he's not on this one, is he? He's not involved.
Yeah, on
in
TV
this.
Burp. I'm as we speak.
Yes, he does.
Time.
He gets a writing credit on it. Yeah,
right.
I know what you're going to ask, because what's an associate then?
Well, I know what they are, and you know what they are, really. But it's why they have to hide behind that name. I first came across the term program associate, which is what we're talking about, on the credits, working with Wogan back in the day, and the program associate on, I wouldn't say every show, but a number of shows, was, for 5 trivia points, can you think who it might have been with Wogan for the chat show, the TV weekday evening chat show?
No.
It was Neil Shand.
Oh gosh, yeah, massive contributor, wasn't he? To
Yeah. And he
TV
wrote. I also worked on. I mean, this is really going back into late 80s, I think. Jasper Carrott. He wrote.
That's right.
A Saturday Night Live Jasper Carrott show. I mean, live comedy on a Saturday night. I don't get nearly enough of that. But so. I mean, well, I could understand in the case of Wogan, it made sense because Wogan wasn't a comedian. So you wanted to believe Wogan was coming up with all these
It's all off the top of his head, yeah.
Yeah, that sort of thing, because he's a DJ. And he did all his own material for Radio 2 because he could ad-lib. But it doesn't make sense to me that someone like Harry Hill, there's no shame in having writers, in my view.
Is it a royalty thing, do you think? I just wondered, because I looked at this and I thought, well, I wonder... If you've struck a deal and Harry Hill is the person who gets the writing royalties and the program associate gets a predetermined fee and that's it. And I wondered whether it was something to do with that, with the accounting side of it more than anything. I couldn't get the impression it was. Do you know, interestingly enough, the guys that we're talking about, people like Dan Mayer and Paul Hawksby, guess where they were?
Yeah, I'm just looking at their names now, Fork. You've guessed it. Yes,
TV Burp. They're the TV Burp guys, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, the big question then is, what happened? What happened? What happened, mate? What happened? Why? Why did it not? Why doesn't it not touch your funny bone?
There's a certain sneering attitude to it, and it's a cheap laugh because it's almost like if you think if we were in a court of law, because we're talking about police dramas here, the actors have got no right of reply because they're in the past, aren't they? So just briefly, if you haven't seen this show, it goes right back to the 50s, Dixon of Dock Green, which I remember that went through to the 70s, amazingly. And then you had Zed Cars and Softly Softly. And so it goes through time and the Bill, Line of Duty. Line of Duty is pretty much where it stops, isn't it? I'm bringing it up to the present. And just as there's a load of clips, as we're saying, but it's the way he weaves the gags in, or the writers, program associates weave the gags in, and Harry Hill does get writing credit as well, so I'm sure he's part of the team. But it just seems soft target after soft target after soft target, but then every now and again I completely confound myself and laughed.
But he's not poking fun at the actors, is he? He's poking fun at the characters that they're playing. I mean, one of the things that, I mean, it's not a huge laugh, but it's one of the things I thought, oh yeah, I always used to think that was largely aimed at the Bill. Was he was saying about, you know, you've got to use the right swear words, and then he showed clips of people saying, oh, you're a git, you're a swine, you're a wally, you're a snake. I always used to think that, but I mean, what are they supposed to do? Because it went out, before the watershed even. A lot of these shows, like the Bill, went out at 8 o'clock at night, didn't it? But I never thought. It's really weird you say that, because I never thought there was any malice in it at all. It never felt like that for me at all. It was, we were laughing along with them rather than laughing at them. You know, it was.
Well, how do we know that the actors are laughing?
But it's not the actors; it's the characters, isn't it? The actors are playing a character, so you can't go one step removed from that, because that's just weird.
Well, in which case, it's having a go at the writers. We're back to my writing theme. The writers of these police dramas, because it's not, you know, it's Harry Hill getting a laugh at their expense, and also it's different times. But
that was the point. That's the joke, isn't it? Isn't that the joke? Is that it was different times, and you know, the way that. I mean, the funniest thing I thought was that the start of it, and I've seen the whole series, so this is a bit of a cheat, really. But the start of it, where it says how we got from this. On the Sweeney, and they're like all having fights and everything, to this on Line of Duty, where they're all sitting down. I'll have the duck,
ordering sea bass.
Yeah, or the sea bass, whatever. But on all the other ones, they've all started out, how do we get from this really sedentary to this really, you know, like
the other way around.
Yeah, with the hospital ones, it was starting off with like Dr. Finley's casebook through to Casualty, where there's a petrol tanker going through the hospital and all that. So the first one was a joke within the series, in as much as you kind of like, he's reversed it completely on its head and said, how did they become that? But yeah, you know, it was laughing at the genre. I really felt it was laughing at the genre rather than laughing at poking fun at the characters the actors were playing. But wow, Yeah.
Because, I mean, I remember with TV Burp, I never actually sat down, you'll be shocked by this, I'm sure, and watched one beginning to end. But because we can now reveal it was made in BBC studios, even though it was an ITV show, I say reveal, I'm not the first person to say that. But working as I did at TV Centre, every now and again I'd see it in rehearsal. I remember these puppets. I'm a sucker for puppets.
Right.
If he'd had puppets in this, it would be a different show for me. And didn't the shout go up, fight? And
Well,
they had to slug it out.
Into the break, he always used to do that. Which is what they referenced at the end here, didn't he? There's only one way to find out. He'd always say, I like so and so, and I like so and so, but which one is better? There's only one way to find out. Fight, and then the two things would come in and would fight each other.
Right.
Wow.
You wouldn't want me to lie, would you?
No, I mean, after a second viewing, did you kind of come around and think, oh well?
I could see the creativity at the top, but then it got formulaic, and once you got the formula, it's just, I mean, to me, I think it's the BBC being lazy as well. You can almost imagine the conversation. I know it wouldn't have been like this because there'd been bowing and scraping. Oh, Harry, we love your work, blah, blah, blah. Here's a big check. But you can almost imagine the conversation. Can you do what you did over there to us and bring us some nice, juicy ratings?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think this is new enough or inventive enough to me, he's treading water now.
Right. See, it's interesting that you say that, because I think there's a definite, and I read some interviews where he said, "Oh, I don't want to just copy TV Burp," and I thought, well, that's really what I mean. He had given this interview long before he'd done this for the BBC, and I think actually that's really what you've done, is you've gone to do a kind of pound shop.
It's almost low grade version because the title's unexciting, and then, as you said, the description given by the publicity people or whoever's written it. It just makes you think it's not even as good as TV Burp.
No, nowhere near. I mean, I was just going to say a pound shop version of TV Burp. I mean, the interesting thing with all of that.
Now you're getting harsh.
No. I mean, I still loved it though. I mean, I still think that as a concept, I don't know what it is about it. I find it very clever, very inventive. It's very painstaking. You can clearly see the amount of effort that's gone in. And in actual fact, Harry Hill quite openly said at the end of TV Burp, he said, I can't do it anymore. He said, I just can't. All I'm doing is watching TV and watching tapes of stuff just to try and find them. He said it takes days and days and weeks and weeks.
I do at least have sympathy for him and programme associates for the hours and hours they must watch, and to their patience and fortitude. But I mean, hasn't he said it all there that he can't do it anymore? And here he is doing it again.
I mean, they've done different things. I mean, one of them and again, I shouldn't do this because we only judge it on the episode that we see normally. But because I've seen the series, I can't unsee it. But one of the things they did, which I thought was very, very clever, and I'd never seen it done on TV Burp, and I became a bit of a TV Burp fiend. Really, it was a must watch TV in certainly from my point of view. But he actually made it. I think it was the hospital drama one. They made up a poem of different lines from different programs from different actors, and he made up this.
Did it rhyme or was it blank verse?
A rhyming poem. And I just
imagine how many hours of not very good TV you've got to watch to find those gems. I think there's a whole other world, and we need to investigate it, and we need to decide how we're going to approach it. But you've got to look at YouTube for tomorrow's stars.
Oh yeah,
or even today's stars, of course.
Yeah, I watch more YouTube than I watch TV now. I don't know about you, but I do. I'll rather than watch some TV in bed before I go to sleep, I get into bed and watch YouTube videos on the iPad.
Yeah, I haven't actually measured the percentage, but certainly very much more often, particularly at the end of the day, I'm going to YouTube just for whatever it randomly throws up in the sort of timeline thing for me, or personal choices. The thing is, your TV doesn't learn what you like, does it? Or not a standard linear TV.
Or doesn't do programs about what you like, does it? I mean, not everybody wants to see a guy there playing a bass guitar, but I'll sit and watch it for 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. Or
I'm going through another Ian Jury phase. Talking of YouTube, and your mate, who's the bassist in the Blockheads?
Norman Watt-Roy, what a bass guitarist! He was the guy he was the reason I started playing bass guitar. Was I saw him on Top of the Pops and thought I'll have a bit of that.
That's a cool gig.
Yeah.
And we're going down one of those delightful side alleys, but his work on Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick, I mean, what a guy.
Well, I mean, he contributed so much, hasn't he? Because I mean, he's a session man as well. I think he was it Mark Bedford that played bass in Madness? I can't remember the bass guitarist there, but when he left, the bass guitarist left Madness for a while. Norman was the guy that stepped in, and
Wow.
so there you go. Anyway, should we have another clip of Harry Hill and see if I can make you at least grimace?
Snarl.
Where do we get to? We're talking police dramas. And as Harry points out, it's not all doom and gloom. He said sometimes the good news just keeps on coming.
Any news on Harvey?
Apparently he's regained consciousness. I'm going to see him right now.
The witness has
well,
regained
gently,
consciousness. Actually, that's not the first time that's happened.
Hobby City just called, and Kwame Qualo has regained consciousness.
Great.
Kwame Qualo.
Pradeep Das has regained consciousness.
Pradeep Da.
Annie Brawley has regained consciousness.
Annie Brawley.
The shooting victim, Travers. He's regained consciousness. Full
Travers,
recall,
the shooting victim.
Sean has regained consciousness.
He's awake.
Sean.
Luke Whitechurch has regained consciousness.
Luke Whitechurch.
Connor's regained consciousness.
Connor.
It seems Spectre's regained consciousness. There's a lot of
Make
common
that.
one.
Just heard from the hospital. Val's regained consciousness.
Val.
Sir, hospital's just called. Steve's regained consciousness.
Steve.
That was the hospital. Mikey Bishop's regained consciousness. Let's go and see what he has to say.
Mikey Bishop. You sure?
That's not Mikey Bishop.
Didn't think so.
It's Jim Briggs.
Yeah, Jim Briggs. Easy mistake to make.
See, I'm enjoying it more because I'm looking at your face on Skype, which doesn't normally make me laugh in any pleasant way. But it's the fact that you're almost on the edge of corpsing as those go through. And yes, how many hours of not necessarily very interesting police dramas do you have to sit through to find those? The implication is they're all doing it. I mean, I feel a bit sorry for the writers of these things because it's easy to come away from that thinking, oh, they're not very inventive, are they? But, they've only got so much room to move. It's just like you were saying about swearing, You have to work within the limitations of the medium and the culture at the time, regulations and the duration of the show. And it is, I guess it's quite powerful to have someone regain consciousness. And it does happen in the real world. That's the other thing. I was whinging, wasn't I, just the other week about coincidences. But coincidences happen as well in the real world, don't they?
It is. I mean, I don't sit through that and think, oh, it's a modern day satire on the derivative nature of drama writing on television. You kind of, the backdrop is that you accept, as you say, that they're working within parameters and limitations. And it's just, and we don't notice that. To me, that's the funniest thing about that, is that we don't notice this. It's only when you stick them end to end that you sit and you go, geez, I've been watching all these programs and I never realised that they always say so-and-so's regained consciousness.
But that's the thing. But if you're watching them and if you enjoy them, and there's no point watching them if you're not enjoying them, although you do wonder how much Harry Hill and the writers, program associates, enjoy watching. But you are drawn into that world, aren't you? So that something would be wrong with the writing and the performing, everything, direction, lighting, etc., if you weren't sucked into that world, such that you something's wrong when you start thinking about, oh, that window could do with it clean, couldn't it?
Yeah.
And ditto if you're at the theatre and you'll spot some odd things. You're not drawn into that world.
No.
Something's wrong, isn't it?
I mean, I ended up, when I was watching the series, I ended up watching two at a time. I kind of got that into it. But the beauty of that one is that, and he does it a bit later on, but that kind of where he takes what you think, okay, he's just going down that route, and then they say, oh, so-and-so's again, and he's going, are you sure? and it isn't, and that's and he does it. He commentates.
He weaves himself in as an extra character, doesn't he?
He kind of injects himself into the scene in a way. I think it's just beautiful the way he does it. There's a car chase from the Bill. And they're doing the commentary as they're chasing this villain in the car, and he's going, we're going left into so-and-so street, and at one point he says, that's that's where they've started from, isn't it? And then it cuts to the
Cut
to the
to.
operations room, and the guy's saying, "That's so and so street. That's nearly where back they started from." He's going, "Yeah, I told you so." And
so it's like Harry was ahead of them.
there's just that kind of like that immersion that I just love about it. I just kind of think I don't know. There's just it's not lazy because it obviously takes an awful lot of work to do. It's difficult in terms of making drama funny, because that's the other thing that you're trying to do as well. I just think it's got so many things going for it. I mean, if it wasn't so time consuming, I guess we'd probably see a lot more of its kind on the TV, perhaps. I don't know. I'm surprised nobody has done it on YouTube, but I guess it must be the work thing, really.
Well, this is where I would steer you if you haven't already gone to, although you won't like it politically, I warn you now.
Right.
But are you aware of Michael Spicer, the room next door
I
man?
just think it's awful. I think it's so unfunny. It's so...
But we'll forget that. But the point is, that is a... No, let me finish.
But I was going to say that's the...
No.
It's like the antithesis of this.
Well... No, it just doesn't float your boat.
No,
it's not.
Anyway,
let me finish.
Go on,
the point is,
it's not that. But go on.
Shush.com. The point is, it is a form of clip comedy or broken comedy.
Yeah.
To go full circle, like that car chase.
I'm going to tell you the difference. In my view, the difference is that it's just so obvious. It's just so obvious. It's there's no twist in it. You just know what he's going to say.
Well, he hasn't got a team of 4 writers and producers and so on, I don't think.
I mean,
although, interesting, there is a Radio 4 twist on it, but that's not what I'm going to set as the homework, which we'll get to shortly. It must be time to look at Scores on the Doors, Miss Ford.
Do you want to go first?
No, I'm going to guess yours. I'll give you yours first.
Go on.
And then I think you're going to be in the 4. It's whether you tilt. I would say 4.
I was going to give it a 4.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why I give it a 4 is because TV Burp for me is a 4.5 or even a 5. I mean, I just love that program. I just thought it was so clever, and I could just watch hours of it, much to everybody's disappointment. And this is below that. So yeah, it's a 4 for me.
It's a 3 from me, which I don't know if you were thinking I might come in under that, but that is a recognition of the fact they must all have square eyes, or at least widescreen eyes by now. And a lot of work has gone into it. As I say, the second viewing, I was coming around to it more than the first viewing, so those headlines are a little bit, behind the curve for me. But it's apart from laughing when I can see you laugh at it on my own, there was one laugh which I think was about that regained consciousness sequence. So 3 out of 5, which makes it a 7 out of 10 from the two of us.
Can I just a quick one? Can I an honourable mention for the musical director? I don't know if you noticed this, but the musical director on this programme is a guy called Steve Brown. Who
is this? The guy who often praises doing lots of other comedies?
No, he. If you know Steve Brown, you'll probably know from the Alan Partridge live shows. I'm Alan Partridge. Was Glenn Ponder the band leader?
Oh, just the old. It's back to the nose again, isn't it? I'm doing it now. You can't see that in audio, friends, but touching the nose with the right hand, right nostril, left hand,
Glenn Ponder and Savoir Faire. And then he changed it next week because they'd all been sacked contractually, I think, or something. Steve Brown, interesting enough, and I just wanted to mention this. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I couldn't find any clips. If anybody knows where we can find any clips of this, I'd be mad keen to see it. But Steve Brown had a pilot. He had his own show where he had his own concept. He didn't appear in it, but he thought up a game show. And it said, ever thought you had an amazing idea for a TV show, but not quite sure what to do with it? Enter the remote controller. A brand new pilot with Alan Carr, in which members of the public are all convinced that they have the next big hit on their hands. From the brains of Harry Hill and Steve Brown, Alan will help our hopefuls pitch their ideas. After a bit of role playing and finessing from Alan, of course, and it only lasted a pilot. I think.
Oh no!
They biffed it off.
I was just thinking. Essentially, that's what's the thing with
Dragon's Den?
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Dragon's Den for comedy, isn't it?
For TV, yeah. But
Well, that's a shame. So the very show itself fails.
Yeah.
Never mind the people's ideas on it.
Channel 4. So if anybody's seen that, if you know where you can get hold of the remote controller pilot for Channel 4.
I like the title. I mean, for the title alone, it should have got at least 2 series.
Quite good, isn't it?
Okay, now I thought it was time, because each week we say we do we put on the notional marble slab of comedy, TV, radio, or internet stroke digital stroke WhatsApp, whatever. I thought it was time to root around in the world of podcasts, because I think they're moving on. And when it comes to comedy, it used to be the case. Well, you know, we're not in a golden age yet. But it used to be the case that you really struggled to find any comedy. You could find, you know, a couple of old farts like us talking about comedy, or people thinking they were funny, which is not us.
Or people who are thinking they're a couple of old farts talking about comedy, which is that us? I don't know whether it is.
That's you putting out a hostage to fortune.
I'm really confused now. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think we'll have some incoming on anti-social media if you're not careful. Anyway. So I've gone to the world of podcasts. I looked at the genre of comedy, and lo and behold, of course, these days with podcasts, your comedians and other related artists don't have to wait for the controller to ring. They can get on and make a podcast series. Now, whether it will be big or not, or good or not, we'll see. But we have referenced in the past the Phone Jacker series, haven't we?
Yes.
Well, would you be shocked if I told you there is an all-new Phone Jacker podcast available, and I'm putting 2 episodes, because they are only 15 minutes long, like Clunkadunk, on the Slab of Comedy for you next week.
Is it Kayvan Novak, is it?
It is indeed.
Oh, wow.
I'm so glad you pronounced it. I couldn't remember if it was Kayvan or Kayvan. But episodes 7 and 8, just to be slightly perverse, which I think they're either the newest or they're the end of the series or both. So that's the all-new Phone Jacker podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And we know you're getting them somehow, because we're here. That's episodes 7 and 8, Kayvan Novak. Thank you, Shane. And that's what we're putting on the Slab next week.
Well, that'll be an interesting one, won't it? And I know we'll talk about this more next week, but not all podcasts are created equal, are they? I mean, there's the indies like us, and then there's the ones who have got the backing of the big companies and they're putting it out there. I wonder whether this one is a third type, which is the artist has confidence in the material but can't get it commissioned. It'd be fascinating.
Yeah, I do wonder. I don't have an answer, but we can discuss that next week, certainly.
I like it. That excites me. That doesn't. Never mind the content. The concept excites me. That is interesting. All right, looking forward to that one. Don't forget, if you've enjoyed the Comedy Slab podcast, get in touch. You know, we're starting to get a lot of people getting in touch with us and dropping us notes on our Facebook page or via Twitter, and we love it, don't we? It's really. I know you do. I certainly do. And, you know, people just throw their 2 penneth in. They'll say what they think. I had somebody on our Facebook page the other day at Comedy Slab on Facebook, and I'll grab it up just so I can give them an honourable mention.
You're nicking my lines now. I do these social media handles.
All I was going to say was, they gave us their own review, their own synopsis of what they thought.
That's what we want.
And I thought, that's really quite cool, actually. You know, so yeah, do get in touch if you get the chance on the Comedy Slab Facebook page. I'll try and find out who that was. Sorry, go on.
And leading seamlessly on, thank you for promoting the Facebook page. So I will move to Twitter, which is the same handle, in fact, at Comedy Slab. And we tweet sparingly, but keeping the quality high. And it's nice to get your reactions through that route as well. There are many channels. I would not tell you if it were not so.
It was our old mate Adrian Bailey, and he was giving his thoughts on the Mark Steele and Son production of Union. And he said, and I thought, do you know, I read the comment, I thought, well, what a well-informed comment that is. He said he thought it was a cross between Ed Reardon and Mike Leigh, which I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he didn't. He said, I found it a bit difficult to follow what was going on. He said, and the reveal
about not just me then.
Yeah, he said the reveal about the Russian, he said, was too contrived. He said, I laughed a couple of times, 2 out of 5. So if you want to come along to our Facebook page and give it a score, or on Twitter, we're more than happy to have you along in the party.
Absolutely, and we're more than happy if you want to give us a nice, generous, warm star rating on Apple Tunes, iPodcasts.
All right, Grandad.
Rearrange those to form a well-loved social, musical outlet.
Do you want woofers? Do you want tweeters? Do you want a bag on your head?
There's your salad cream, Grandad.
I love it.
Like a gramophone.
Dear. Anyway, until next time, thank you so much for your company. We're off to sit and watch Adrian sneeze because
it's not to be sneezed at.
We're a bit stuck for entertainment around these parts, to be honest with you, on a Friday night.
And I can't decide which of us is better, me or him. So there's only one way to resolve it, isn't there?
Fight!